This is not default X-plane scenery, by the way. This looks pretty good. This is the, I don't know how you pronounce it, All Pilot X HD Mesh Scenery version 3. I think that's the right title. And I've just got one tile of that scenery, but it covers all of Southern California. And it was about 1.5 gigabytes. And I think that adds mesh, textures, and possibly some vector data as well. I'm not really sure. I've forgotten the details of that. But it looks pretty good. Alright, so that's general focus down below. I'm going to set us up for L00 now, Rosamond Sky Park. And then start to turn us towards that. So these ground textures are really nice. This is very reminiscent of the Orbx SoCal scenery out in this region. Of course, it's not Orbx scenery. This is a free package. Yeah. So we've got 12 miles to go to get to Mojave, and we're going to land in the direction of runway 30. So I'm going to turn us that way. And we should probably start to descend. Okay, here we are again. We're going to keep the independent views now in X-plane. I think we'll do that every time. But we've got standard default X-plane 11 scenery in play now. So we're just going to check out the difference between that and the add-on HD mesh scenery. Handle that crosswind quite so well. Well, we've got some different scenery on the ground. We had a vehicle there which I didn't see before. Got a feeling the mesh for those hills is not as detailed either. We've got kind of spiky, not spiky, but pointy hills. Maybe that's what you call placebo. 5,700. There's Palmdale. This one's autopilot there. Let it creep up to 6,000 feet, and we'll stick it on an altitude hold right about now. And general focus and nav hold. looking at the scenery just to see what differences we can see from before. We've still got all those power lines. Doesn't look bad. The textures are okay. The roads don't look so good. The roads are kind of spiky. The towns and the buildings look different. I'm not sure they look any worse actually. I've got a sense that the scale looks better here at default. I need to research what this HD upgrade does. I mean, I'm presuming it's not just the mesh. I think those circular features that we saw out here earlier, they're not there. You just see some out to the right there. So it's definitely seems to be different. This foreground seems to be different. This seems darker. These default textures are not bad. They're probably better than FSX default textures. It may be that this HD mesh add-on doesn't change the textures but actually just changes the land class. I don't know if it's called land class in X-Plane, but whatever the equivalent is to land class in FSX. So in other words, it's the placing of the texture tiles that's done more authentically or more realistically. Who knows? Same scenario again, this time though we're in the Twin Otter Extended in FSX, so we're back with a stretchy screen. Things look immediately different, but that's mainly because we've got Orbx software, and in particular we've got the Orbx Airport scenery for Agua Dulce. The most obvious difference is the buildings are on a different side. Presumably Orbx has got this correct. Interesting to note that the detail in the detail in the distant hills doesn't look so good. That's probably the level of detail radius. So the hills are, the textures haven't loaded. We've got very blurred textures in the distance. But let's get out here and we'll see what differences we can see. So let's go. Because this is the Aerosoft Twin Otter, I need to be watching the engine parameters more carefully than in the RW Designs version. We do seem to have that crosswind. I'm not dealing with it terribly well. The colours are looking a bit more washed out here in FSX. Not sure what that's about. Need to come down on those engines because we're cooking them. It's kind of warm outside. 20 degrees is showing. That's Celsius, of course. So again, if just looking at the display, we've got this stretchy. If you watch the power levers, we've got that gross distortion as we come out to the right, and again the cockpit surrounds very much distorted out at the peripheries. Okay, we're approaching 6,000 feet, well 5,600. Altitude alert. Right, we need General Fox. KWJF. Direct to activate, GPS. Nav capture. So this desert scenery looks very different to the X-Plane stuff. We can recognise the same, we've got the lake over there, we've got the same rolling hills. The texture loading is definitely noticeable. Blurry over there. You can see the textures popping in the foreground. And I have to say this this doesn't look as good actually as the X-Plane, even though this is the Orbx SoCal scenery. That river doesn't look anything like as good. It looked really sculptured and 3D in X-Plane. This actually looks too green, but I'm presuming the land class stuff is correct. I suppose the difference is I don't think X-Plane has seasonal variation in the terrain. So we're seeing a single season, and it may be that we're seeing summer. And the difference here is we're probably seeing spring textures with Orbx, and actually this is more correct to the. What I should have done was set the season to probably summer. Well, if it's made a difference, it hasn't made a difference in the direction I expected. Everything still looks kind of green and pale, washed out. Just going to change the destination to L00 now. I think the thing that's most disappointing about switching back to FSX is that blurring of the textures out in the distance, in the middle distance to the far distance. Now maybe I need to do some tweaking of my setup. The textures were loading well before, and I think it's, what I've done is obviously I've upgraded my PC completely, and then I've slapped on these new screens, so a lot of the scheduling and stuff is probably messed up. And in fact the affinity mask tweak that I have in there, which was very helpful in getting the texture loading on track before, may well be working against us, or at least not for us now. Let's just go straight to Mojave. Those textures are pretty good once they're loaded. The X-Plane was sharp from way out. That's going to pop into sharpness, just as we get up to it, which is not much use at all, really. Alright, let's try and get some 80s.
Kilo, Mike, Hotel, Victor, Airport information, Golf 1800, Zulu, weather, wind 289, at 14, gusting to 20, visibility 10, sky clear, temperature 18, dew point -4, altimeter 2991, advise on initial contact, you have information, Golf, Kilo, Mike.
Okay. Okay, another experiment. Everything's the same, except this time we're using Mega Scenery X SoCal. Although we still have the Orbx Agua Dulce Airport installed, which is what we're sitting at now. So let's see what difference that makes. Bit of a rubbish takeoff, but we'll survive. So what we're seeing here is probably still Orbx in the vicinity of the airport. But as we come over this ridge, we should start to see the Mega Scenery textures. So we're holding at 6,000 feet. And this is Mega Scenery X, which is looking pretty good. Palmdale right ahead. Do what we did before, we look for KWJF. Go for that. Put it onto nav hold. So the colouring's pretty much the same or very similar to what we saw in the Orbx software. The detail on the ground is very much better, as you'd expect, because it's basically photo imagery. And it's just, you know, it's not so much realistic as real. Again, we've got a bit of issue with the texture blurring in the distance, but in the near distance, you know, that's about as real as it gets. From higher it looks better, from lower it starts to look flat and 2D, which of course it is. But apart from that blurring in the distance, it's just superb texture. I think the Mega Scenery SoCal is fantastic scenery. Again, it's not seasonal. Mega Scenery again comes with one season. Not sure which season it is, probably summer. That haze has done pretty well here with active sky. That kind of looks like it's like a fog bank almost. I'm not sure if active sky actually does model fog banks, and maybe that's what it's doing. For navigation practice, I don't think you can beat Mega Scenery. Do you know what I had decided was a fog bank? I think I know what it is. I don't think it's anything meteorological at all. I suspect that's the edge of the Mega Scenery X SoCal photo scenery. So what we see beyond that is, because I've turned off the Orbx FTX Global and the SoCal scenery, what we're actually seeing there is default FSX. So we might as well follow that into Mojave and just get a different kind of comparison. So this is how FSX blends its default airport with the default scenery. This is Rosamond, and it looks terrible. I'm sure you'll agree with that. And the ground texture is also, this is I guess some sort of generic desert texture with some greenery on it. I mean, it just looks very bad. So if we were to compare this default FSX with the default X-Plane scenery, X-Plane wins hands down, gotta say. And we can see Mojave up ahead. You know, there's nothing subtle about it. It's just a green splodge with, you can see the buildings already. We get a descent going.